Hi, I'm back here with Sarah Daugherty, and Sarah is actually the test director here, one of the test directors here at Wallops Flight Facility. And Sarah, what an interesting job you have.
It really is.
So tell us a little bit about what you do with this mission or with any others that are launched here at Wallops.
Sure. The test director is the lead for operations here in the control center. So days leading up to launch, months leading up to launch, we help coordinate everything that we have to arrange with external agencies when we're getting ready for one. So we talk to the FAA, we talk to the Navy, who owns some airspace and surface areas out in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast here. And a host of other agencies ahead of time to let them know what we're doing and coordinate our launch window and things like that. We also are on review panels and helping the project manager set up his operations, so determine the countdown and things like that. And then once launch day comes around, we are the final call for a launch. We're the final go, no-go decision, and we sit in the back of the control center and just make sure all the steps in the countdown are being checked off and ensure the whole team is on the same page and that everybody's ready to go.
I have to tell you that looking around and talking to some of the engineers that we've talked to, you have a pretty powerful job. You really have that go, no-go responsibility. Tell us what might make a no-go.
There could be a number of things. We could have some of the more common ones, of course, are that we have boats or airplanes in our hazard area, more so boats than airplanes ever. So we work all the time to clear them out. We have boats and airplanes that assist us in clearing those ones that are what we call fouling the range out of the area. Some of the other things could be weather. It might be a little too windy for the rocket, or we could have storms coming through. And then some of those that are less occur less often are payload or vehicle issues. So, you know, the wire's not working, or you push a switch and nothing happens, that sort of thing.
And of course, the team's working hard now on their rehearsals to make sure that none of those kinds of things happen, and we can't do a whole lot about the weather. We are shooting this rocket out over the ocean.
We are.
So we have to make sure that that all those boats are out of the way. How do you go about coordinating something like that then to make sure? You said you have to coordinate with a lot of agencies, but
sure.
What do you do?
We talk to, we publish what's called Notice to Mariners. That's one of the things that we do. So we send those to the Coast Guard. We send those to the Navy. They get them out through all the channels that they can, and we hope that the public and military boats are checking those, and so they know where our hazard areas are. We communicate via our public affairs office that we're having launches coming up, and things like that. So we try to just get the word out to everybody any way that we can that we have these areas.
Well, and this is kind of a busy weekend around here as we're coming up on the pony swim here at Chincoteague, and thousands of visitors come into this area. I'm sure that boats are even more of an issue than they might be at other times of the year. So.
Sure, it is. It will be really busy out there. One of the things that's working in our favor is that it is a very early morning launch, so hopefully we'll be trying to do it before the busy activities.
Before anybody gets up.
Yeah, before the vacation activities start for the day. So, but
tell us about that launch window. You mentioned the launch window and how it was decided. So we know that IRVE-3 needs some daylight because they have cameras that have to operate. So how is the launch window set?
The launch window is typically set between myself, the PM, and the investigators or the payload team that have their specific requirements, say for daylight or that sort of thing. So we kind of put our heads together and come up with what we can. And then it's my job to try to coordinate that with all those external agencies. So when we talk to the FAA, they may say, you know, that this is really tough for us because your hazard area is cut off different air traffic routes and things like that. So it's an iterative process. We work at it back and forth for a while and finally come up with the best launch window for everybody that everybody can live with and still carry out their mission.
So when is the launch window for IRVE-3?
The launch window for IRVE-3 is 5 to 8 a.m. In the morning. So each day we're going to try to start on July the 22nd, and we'll have backup days on the 23rd and 24th.
Okay, all right. So Sarah, what kind of credentials do you have to be that flight director or test director?
Sure. I got here initially being an engineer, so went to school, a bachelor's degree in engineering and math, and started work here at Wallops actually in that field. And then once I saw how the bigger picture here, all the different types of operations and missions that we do, the opportunity came up for this, and I happened to fit most of them, not all of them, but I'm sort of a risk taker myself, so I went ahead and took a gamble on it and got the job as a launch director, a test director here.
So do you like your job?
I
Obviously,
do.
Huh?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot of fun, very exciting at times.
Tell us a little bit about the Wallops Flight Facility. This is our first trip here to Wallops. I'm kind of excited. It's my first launch from here. I know there are big screens behind us, and on one of those screens we can see the rocket. But
Sure.
What kind of things go on here at Wallops?
A number of different things. So of course, sounding rockets, like you mentioned, which is why we're here today. We have a host of other suborbital programs here. So we have the balloon program office is based out of here. And we have facilities that test new balloon technologies and manage the balloon launches that are in other locations around the world. We also have an aircraft office here that's very busy. So we have a number of aircraft from a NASA P-3, which is a very large aircraft that we outfit with different science instruments and fly it here as well as other areas around the world. So our aircraft office, and we're also into the unmanned aerial systems business, I guess you could say. So that's sort of dual purpose. It kind of falls under the aircraft office and under range activities here because we do launch them here, fly them from our island. We have a runway out there for UASs. So there's a lot of different things going on here all the time. And then we're even into the what you might call larger rocket world. So we're into ELVs, expendable launch vehicles, and we launch satellites into orbit for NASA purposes or for other DoD, Air Force type purposes here. So.
When we're out here geographically very close to the ocean, very close, lots of water around. When you're talking about having a runway, how difficult is it to build a runway in this kind of, it's kind of swampy out there. So
it is, yeah. We have a lot of marshland, so and we're in the process now of trying to build another UAV runway over our marshland. So there's a lot of considerations to take into that. Certainly the civil engineering part of it, and then also the environmental effects of that. So we have groups here on our facility that are dedicated to that. So not only do we have rocket scientists and engineers, but we have environmental scientists, chemists, biologists, and we have civil engineers, structural engineers, architects, and a whole host of people that support us through that.
So just one more way that NASA truly does hire people from lots and lots of different backgrounds because it takes a lot to make one of these things work.
It does.
Have you had any memorable launches here that are just those that just go, wow, that was the coolest launch?
Yeah, one of my favorites recently was just back in March. It was called Atrex was the name of the mission, and we launched 5 rockets within 5 minutes. So on each minute we launched a different rocket, and so we had a lot of rockets in the air at one time, and it was really neat studying the upper winds, like right on the cusp of where our atmosphere ends and space kind of starts. So we were studying winds up there and a number of different things, and the payloads released some neat chemicals where they could trace the winds, and that was a really neat launch, very exciting, certainly complicated because you can think of a day like this times 5 because there were five rockets.
There's a lot of excitement going on here now. I can't imagine what would happen if they launched 5.
Yes, so that was a very neat mission, and we've had a number of other ones that it just kind of stands out to you because there may be a camera on board the payload that just gives you a really neat, insightful view of what you can look at into the depths of space when you're looking out the camera or the telescope on the payload.
So tell me about what to expect when this rocket goes off.
When this rocket goes off, you'll certainly there will be a loud sort of fireworks July 4th multiplied by a lot. You'll hear the ground will rumble. You'll hear a rumble. And you'll be able to see each stage of the rocket or each motor. This rocket actually has 3. So you'll be able to see each one of those fire or ignite when it does, and you can, as you kind of look up, you can track it up. If you're outside on the island closer to it, you'll actually be able to hear some of the motors kind of fall back down into the ocean. It makes sort of a high-pitched kind of whistling noise. It'll be really neat. And I know that the team here is working hard on bringing real-time video feeds into the control center, so those users or personnel that are in here, they'll also be able to see whatever those cameras that are on board the rocket are looking at while it's in its flight.
Wow, and so by us actually streaming that same kind of information, our audience all across the world will be able to watch with us. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yep.
Are there any future flights here at Wallops that are coming up that you know about that are planned that might be interesting to our audience, or some real special things happening here?
Sure. We are very busy, to say the least. So even coming up before the end of the summer, we'll have at least 1 or 2 more rocket launches, sounding rockets. And then as the fall goes on, we'll have a couple more as well. And some of the other projects I didn't talk about earlier, but that are very close to coming to fruition, is the Antares launch vehicle, which will be resupplying the International Space Station. That should be getting off the ground here in a few short months. And then next year,
on a little bigger rocket than what we're going to see.
Much bigger rocket. That will be quite the sight to see that one. So stay tuned. That one will be really exciting. And then even just next summer, we'll have a launch to the moon, sending a spacecraft to the moon right from here, from our island.
Wow! Right from just down the road. I love it. That's pretty exciting. You do have a great job.
We do.
So what kind of career advice would you give to somebody who's saying, gosh, I want that job? What do I need to do to get that?
I would say just do what you love. There's all kinds of jobs here at NASA. Like we mentioned before, not just rocket scientists or engineers. There are accountants and public affairs type people. So it runs...
Educators like me.
Educators, exactly. So it runs the gamut. So do what you love and just look for the opportunities. And even if you don't think you might not qualify for it, or you might not have something that's listed on it, just go for it anyways. And you never know what could happen.
All right. So Sarah, Sunday when we launch, where will you be?
I will be sitting right here in the control center. I'll be sitting up on the elevated stand in the back there. I will be test director that day, so just following along, sort of observing, overseeing the operation, making sure everything's going as planned, and that the team is ready to go when that time comes. All right. Well, good luck, and thank you very much for joining us. Anything else that you want to tell us about Wallops, or? I don't think so. Definitely tune in to our webcast. We do that live, so you will be able to see some of those cool video feeds and things like that I mentioned before on our launch day. And just check us out. We have a Facebook page and Twitter, and stay in touch with us. All right. All right. Thanks very much for joining us. And thank you. We'll be watching. All right. Okay. And we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.